Somewhere right now, a 16-year-old is sitting in his bedroom, and this month he made more money than his own father makes in an entire year working full-time. His parents do not fully understand how he did it. His teachers do not know it is happening. And the strange part is he did not need a college degree, he did not need a business loan, and he did not need a single dollar of starting capital to do it. Meanwhile, the world keeps telling you the same story on repeat. Go to school. Get good grades, go to university, take on the debt, get the degree, get the stable job, and one day you will be financially secure. Your parents believed that story because their parents told them the same story, and honestly, in 1985, it was mostly true. But this is not 1985. This is 2026, and that story is quietly falling apart in front of us. Right now, all across this country, teenagers and young adults with $0 in their bank account are building income streams that outpace what most college graduates make in 5 years at their first job. I'm not exaggerating that number. And by the end of this video, I'm going to prove it to you with real numbers, real people, and a scoreboard that ranks exactly how realistic each opportunity actually is for someone starting from nothing. So if you have ever felt like the traditional path was a trap disguised as a promise, stay with me, because what I am about to show you might change how you think about the next 10 years of your life. And I want to be clear about something before we go further. This is not one of those videos where I show you one lucky outlier and pretend it applies to everyone. I'm going to walk you through 7 completely different paths, 7 completely different skill sets, and by the time we reach the end, you are going to be able to point at the exact one that fits your personality, your schedule, and your starting point in life, whether that starting point is a bedroom, a dorm room, or a kitchen table. Before we go any further, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because every single week on this channel, we break down exactly how ordinary people are building extraordinary wealth, and you do not want to miss the next blueprint after this one. My name is David Marshall, and welcome to David Marshall Finance. I spend my time studying money, psychology, and the strange, often uncomfortable gap between what we are taught about wealth and what actually works in the real world. And today we are diving into 7 side hustles that anyone, and I mean anyone, can start in 2026 with literally $0. But I am not just going to list them off and wish you luck. I am going to rate every single one of them out of 5 stars across 3 categories that actually matter. Time to learn, meaning how steep is the climb before you make your first dollar. Startup capital, meaning how much cash you actually need before you begin. And ease of reaching $1,000 a month, because that is usually the number where a side hustle stops feeling like a hobby and starts feeling like a real second income. Think of this as a scoreboard we are going to keep coming back to, because by the end of this video, you are going to know exactly which of these 7 paths fits your life, your skills, and your starting point. Let's get into it. Number 1 on the list is Faceless short-form content, and I want to start with a story that honestly still gives me chills. There is a 16-year-old named Tyler Brooks who, as of this year, is generating roughly $500,000 a month. Not a year, a month. And here is the part that breaks people's brains. You never see his face, not once. Tyler runs a network of faceless accounts across Snapchat, YouTube Shorts, and TikTok, stitching together edited clips, motion graphics, and trending audio into short videos that hook viewers in the first 2 seconds and refuse to let go. He is not the star of the video. The content is the star, and Tyler is simply the architect behind the curtain, pulling levers most viewers never even notice. Now here is where it gets interesting, and I want you to really sit with this. Every platform on earth is fighting for the same limited resource, which is your attention span, and attention span is shrinking every single year. That sounds like bad news, but for someone like Tyler, it is the opportunity of a lifetime because he understood something most creators never learn. Watch time is not just a number on a dashboard. Watch time is currency. The longer someone watches, the more a platform pays out and the more brands are willing to spend to be inside that video. So Tyler studies hooks obsessively. He studies pacing, music placement, and the exact psychological moment where a viewer's thumb starts twitching toward the next video, and he interrupts that moment on purpose. This is not luck. This is applied psychology dressed up as entertainment. And the wild part is, you do not need a camera, you do not need to show your face, and you do not need to be conventionally charismatic to pull this off. You need a laptop, free editing software, and an obsession with studying what keeps people watching. What most people never realize is that Tyler is not actually running one account. He is running dozens, each one testing a slightly different niche, a slightly different tone, a slightly different hook style, almost like a scientist running parallel experiments, and then he doubles down hard on whichever accounts start showing signs of life. That is the part nobody talks about. It is not one lucky viral video. It is volume, testing, and ruthless pattern recognition applied over and over again until the winners become obvious. On our scoreboard, faceless content earns a high score for startup capital because it costs close to nothing. But I have to be honest with you, the time to learn is steep because the algorithm rewards volume and consistency, not shortcuts. Most people quit around week 3, right before things start working. Keep that in mind because that pattern is going to repeat itself throughout this entire video. Now before we move to hustle number 2, I need to pause and tell you something that most finance channels will never admit to you. Every single person on this list, every one of them eventually takes the fast cash they make from these hustles and funnels a portion of it into something incredibly boring. And that boring thing is actually the real secret to lifelong wealth. So let's talk about it because hustle number 2 is not flashy, but it might be the most important one in this entire video. Number 2 is consistent investing, specifically a strategy called dollar cost averaging, and I promise you this sounds boring until you see the actual math. Dollar cost averaging simply means you invest a fixed amount of money into an index fund on a regular schedule, no matter what the market is doing that day. You are not trying to time the market. You are not trying to guess the bottom. You are just showing up month after month like clockwork. Here is the number that should be burned into your memory. If you invest $200 a month for 40 years and you earn the historical average annual return of the S&P 500, which is around 10%, you end up with approximately $1.2 million, $200 a month. That is often less than what people spend on subscriptions, takeout, and impulse purchases combined. And yet almost nobody does this consistently because it requires patience in a world engineered to reward instant gratification. This is why every smart hustler on this list treats their side income as 2 separate jobs happening at the same time. Job 1 is generating fast, active cash flow right now, this month, this week. Job 2 is quietly funneling a slice of that cash into long-term compound wealth accumulation that they will barely notice growing until suddenly, one day they do notice it, and it is enormous. Passive income does not usually feel exciting while it is happening. It feels almost invisible, and that invisibility is exactly why so many people give up on it too early, right before the compounding curve starts to bend upward in a way that actually feels real. On our scoreboard, dollar cost averaging scores incredibly high on ease, because literally anyone with a bank account can start, but it scores low on excitement. And that is precisely the trap, because boring and consistent is what actually builds generational wealth, while exciting and inconsistent is what keeps most people broke. Let's move to number 3, and this one surprised me the first time I researched it, because it proves that you do not need a product, a skill people consider glamorous, or even a large audience to build serious monthly income. Number 3 is Discord server building and management. There is a 19-year-old named Jordan Hayes who is currently earning around $15,000 a month, and his entire business is built around something most business owners do not understand at all, which is online community. Think about how many businesses, creators, and brands have rushed to build a Discord server in the last few years because everyone told them they needed one, and then they had absolutely no idea what to do with it once it existed. That gap, that exact gap between having a community and knowing how to run one, is where Jordan built his entire income. He designs the structure, sets up the channels, creates engagement systems, moderates conversations, and keeps the whole thing alive and active. Because a dead, silent Discord server is worse for a brand than having no server at all. Businesses will pay a monthly retainer for this kind of ongoing management because they understand something crucial: retention rate matters more than almost anything else in a digital community. It is far cheaper to keep an existing member engaged than to constantly chase new ones, and most business owners simply do not have the time, patience, or expertise to manage that retention themselves. So they outsource it to people like Jordan, who essentially become the beating heart of communities they do not even own. Jordan told me once that the hardest part was never the technical setup, since anyone can drag and drop channels into place in an afternoon. The hardest part was learning the invisible social rhythm of a healthy community, knowing when to post a discussion prompt, when to run a small event, when to quietly step back and let members talk to each other instead of constantly injecting himself into every conversation. That is a skill most businesses do not even know they are missing until someone like Jordan shows up and their server suddenly feels alive. On the scoreboard, this one scores extremely well for startup capital since you genuinely need almost nothing to begin, but the time to learn is moderate because you have to understand psychology, moderation, and engagement design before anyone trusts you with their community. Here is a pattern you might be starting to notice, and I want to name it directly because it is about to become the backbone of the rest of this video. Every single one of these hustles is not really about the platform, the product, or the tool being used. It is about solving a problem that a business is either too busy, too untrained, or too overwhelmed to solve on their own. Keep that idea in your back pocket because hustle number 4 is going to prove it in the most personal way possible. Number 4 is online coaching and information products. And this is where things get deeply personal because you are not selling a service anymore, you're selling transformation. There's a fitness coach named Marcus Reed who's currently earning around $7,000 a month, not by having the biggest following and not by having some secret workout nobody has ever heard of, but by packaging his knowledge in a way that feels personal, structured, and worth paying a premium for. Marcus does not just sell a generic workout plan. He builds a full onboarding session for every new client, asks detailed questions about their goals, their schedule, and their struggles, and then builds something tailored specifically to them. He follows up regularly, adjusts the plan based on real feedback, and creates a relationship, not just a transaction. And here's the phrase that I think explains this entire hustle better than anything else. People pay for convenience. They do not just want information because information is free everywhere now. They want someone to organize that information, personalize it, and hold them accountable to actually using it. That accountability, that personal touch, that is the premium people are willing to pay for again and again, month after month. This is why coaching and information products can command such high-ticket pricing compared to their actual production cost, because the value is not in the content itself, it is in the transformation and the relationship wrapped around that content. On the scoreboard, this hustle scores well on startup capital, since you likely already have knowledge you could package today, but it scores moderately on time to learn, because building trust in a personal brand does not happen overnight. Now stick with me, because hustle number 5 involves a technology curve that most people have never had explained to them properly. And once you understand it, you will start seeing opportunity everywhere you look, not just online, but in almost every industry around you. Number 5 is AI animation and design. And to understand why this hustle is exploding right now, you need to understand something called the technology adoption curve. Picture a bell-shaped curve broken into 5 distinct groups of people. On the very edge, you have innovators who make up about 2.5% of the population, the obsessive early experimenters who jump on brand new technology before almost anyone else even knows it exists. Next come the early adopters, about 13.5%, people who are watching closely and jump in the moment they see real proof that something works. After that comes the early majority, a massive group making up 34% of the population, cautious but curious, waiting for enough signals before they commit. Then the late majority, another 34%, skeptical, waiting until something becomes almost mainstream before they even consider trying it. And finally the laggards, about 16%, who resist new technology until they have no other choice left. Right now, AI-powered animation and design tools are sitting right at the edge between early adopters and early majority, which, if you understand this curve, is historically the most profitable window to position yourself in. There is a designer named Ava Mitchell who is currently earning between $8,000 and $10,000 a month, using AI tools to create premium animated content for creators and brands who want polished, scroll-stopping visuals, but do not have the time or skill to produce them on their own. Ava is not competing with traditional animators who charge enormous fees and take weeks per project. She is offering speed, affordability, and consistent quality, using tools that did not even exist in this form a few years ago. And here's the twist that most people miss completely. The businesses paying her are not paying for artistic genius. They are paying for cognitive flow, that seamless, satisfying visual experience that keeps a viewer's brain engaged without friction. On the scoreboard, this hustle scores extremely high on ease of reaching $1,000 a month right now, simply because demand is currently exploding faster than supply. But I have to be honest, that window will not stay this wide open forever, because eventually this curve moves into the late majority. And when everyone is doing it, the premium pricing starts to shrink. Alright, we are deep into this video now, and I promise, the next 2 hustles involve 2 of the most fascinating psychological forces in all of consumer behavior, so do not go anywhere yet. Number 6 is reselling luxury items, and this one operates on something called social proof and flex culture, which is simply the human tendency to signal status, success, and taste through the things we visibly own. There is an entrepreneur named Ethan Cole who built a luxury resale business now worth well over $7 million, buying and reselling authenticated designer bags, watches, and accessories to buyers who want the prestige of luxury without paying full retail price, or sellers who want to unload items they no longer use. Here is what fascinated me most when I researched this hustle. Authentication is everything in this world. Buyers are terrified of counterfeits, and sellers like Ethan build entire reputations around their ability to prove authenticity through incredibly specific methods, examining stitching patterns, hardware weight, serial numbers, and even microscopic inspection of materials that most people would never think to check. This attention to detail is exactly what allows someone to charge a premium in a market completely flooded with fakes and uncertainty. And this brings us to one of the most repeated truths in the resale and luxury world, one that applies far beyond just handbags and watches. There is always going to be someone cheaper than you, but not always someone more expensive. Read that again, because most beginners obsess over being the cheapest option available, when in reality, trust, authenticity, and reputation allow you to be the most expensive option in the room and still sell out consistently. On the scoreboard, this hustle scores lower on startup capital compared to the others, since you often need some inventory or buying power to begin, but it scores extremely high on long-term ease once your reputation and buyer network are established. And now for our final hustle, the one that ties every single other hustle on this list together, because without it, none of the other 6 would even be able to sell themselves properly. Number 7 is online copywriting, and I saved this one for last on purpose, because copywriting is not really a hustle sitting alongside the other 6. It is the invisible thread running underneath every single one of them. There is a writer named Ryan Foster who is currently earning around $10,000 a month writing landing pages, email campaigns, and video scripts for high-ticket businesses and creators who understand something most people never think about, which is that words sell far more effectively than features ever do. Every faceless content creator needs hooks written by someone who understands psychology. Every coach needs sales pages that convert curiosity into paying clients. Every Discord community needs onboarding messages that make new members feel instantly welcome. Every luxury reseller needs product descriptions that make an item feel irresistible. Copywriting touches every single hustle we just talked about, which is exactly why Ryan built his entire income around one simple, repeated truth. Content is king, and the magician behind it is the writer. Businesses will pay incredibly high ticket rates for someone who can take a boring product description and turn it into something that stops a scroll, builds desire, and closes a sale. Because the difference between mediocre copy and great copy is often the difference between a business that struggles and a business that scales. On the scoreboard, copywriting scores extremely well across all 3 categories: low startup capital, a learnable skill with enough practice, and a fast path to that first $1,000 a month. Because literally every business on earth needs someone who can write words that convert. So let's step back and look at the full scoreboard we built together today. Faceless content, high reward but a steep climb and heavy consistency required. Consistent investing, boring but mathematically one of the most powerful wealth tools available to anyone with a bank account. Discord management, low-cost entry into a psychological skill most business owners completely lack. Online coaching, personal, high-ticket, and built on trust rather than flashy marketing. AI animation, currently sitting in the most profitable window of the technology adoption curve, but a window that will not stay open forever. Luxury resale, built entirely on authentication, reputation, and the confidence to charge a premium instead of racing to the bottom. And online copywriting, the invisible skill running underneath every single hustle on this entire list. Here is what I want you to actually take away from this video. None of these 7 people started with a business degree, a trust fund, or some secret advantage you do not have access to. What they had was a willingness to study a specific problem obsessively, solve it better than the people around them, and stay consistent long after most people would have quit out of boredom or fear. Notice something else too: almost every one of these 7 people eventually starts blending their hustles together. The faceless content creator hires a copywriter. The luxury reseller starts investing profits with dollar cost averaging. The coach builds a small community that looks a lot like Jordan's Discord model. None of these paths exist in isolation. Once you actually start walking them, they start overlapping, feeding into each other, and compounding just like the money does. The traditional path is not dead, and I am not telling you to drop out of school tomorrow. But the story that university is the only ticket to financial security is quietly, provably falling apart in real time, right in front of us. And the people who understand that early are the ones building income streams the rest of the world will not understand for years. If this video actually gave you something valuable today, hit that subscribe button right now, because every week we are breaking down real financial strategies, real psychology, and real numbers just like this, and I do not want you missing the next one. I am David Marshall. This has been David Marshall Finance, and I will see you in the next video.